Hello there fellow modelers, and welcome back to part 3, the final episode of building Airfix's 1/48 scale Jaguar GR.1. So let's get some masking going here, because we're just going to do our natural metal finish on the rear exhaust just here. You might want to sort of cut these up to kind of get those shapes nicely. It does make a difference to kind of get in there. I've made it a little bit flappy around the sides just to kind of help with overspray, but what you can do is Tamiya does these this masking tape that has plastic sheets on there, so we can really cover up our model and prevent any overspray. Always good to use the Mr. Metal colors for anything to do with exhaust and stuff. Really cool stuff this is. You want to be around about 10 psi. You don't have to thin them down, and you can just then sort of rub at them with some sort of a cloth, and what happens is kind of like the dustiness stays into the recessed panel lines. You can shine up quite a bit actually to make a nice natural metal finish, and the more you actually rub at it, as you can see, the more it really shines up to be a nice natural metal finish. So you can kind of go as far as you want with this. Also done the inside of the exhaust as well, and there we go, really cool looking exhaust going on there, real nice natural metal finish. So let's jump into our deckling now. Here we're going to sort of lay them down in some nice warm water. These decals go really well with micro solid sets. So starting off with the set, we put that on the model first so that our decal goes on top of that. So we've got some nice solution underneath, and then we're going to put some on top, so it's nicely sandwiched in, and then we micro position it with a sewing needle just there. You then, after maybe 10 minutes of that kind of like drying, just to roll out any sort of moisture, air pockets, that kind of stuff, and then sort of what we can do after that is whack on the micro sole. This stuff really kind of begins to soften up the decal, so it like conforms to the shape, it conforms to recessed panel lines, recessed rivets, and these decals are amazing, and with that solution really looks like sprayed on. Now you might have some air pockets, so with a blade, using the weight of the blade really to just lightly cut into those recessed panel lines, or wherever there's an air pocket, and we can get the micro sole back on top of that, just so as the air can escape and micro sole can get in there, and that will look sprayed on. Using some hobby thinners and their H77 tire black, just kind of thin it down sort of heavily, a good maybe 70% finish to paint, and it literally paints itself, right? And then you can sort of make the solution a bit sort of stronger and paint the rest nicely. It's just a quick, easy way of, you know, kind of letting the paint the wheels for you. Now these decals are going to leave a bit of a residue, which you're going to want to sort of rub away, not so much with micro solid set, which is good, so you don't have to do too much rubbing away, and we can put a gloss coat on that, so those decals are sandwiched with a gloss underneath and a gloss on top, and that will really get them down. Now we're going to do some weathering. This is a nice sludge wash. Dark dirt is a good color to use, and we're just going to plaster this on. It might kind of as you could see there, it didn't seem to go everywhere, but a second coat does kind of, you know, make sure we get everything everywhere and get it in there, and then we just got to rub it off. Really sort of, you know, kind of easy, a bit time consuming, but you know, you kind of just rub at it, removing the wash from the surface, but it leaves behind in the recessed panel lines and recessed rivets. Cotton wool buds are good for getting in those hard to reach places as well. Now we're going to come in with some fuel stains here by Ammo. We're going to thin it down with some enamel odorless thinners, right, because we just want to make a thinner mixture, because it is a bit thick, and I like it's only a little touch, but it's just those little touches that make all the difference. I'm just putting a bit on the suspension bit of our landing gear, and it just adds that again, a little touch, kind of looks a bit oily rather than fuel stainy. And then we're going to apply our landing gear. We just want to sort of make sure everything lines up, it's all sort of square. A simple Mark 1 eyeball can just sort of show you it kind of lining up. Bit of a deckling mistake I noticed here, a bit of a crease in the decal, right? That's not going to look good, so we could just sand this down. Now when sanding it down, it's just all about being careful not to sand too deep, right? We just want to sand the decal layer off, and you know, not really kind of go so deep that we end up going into the paint and the primer. We've got lots of gloss coats on, so we should be safe, and then we just work our way down the grits until, you know, that crease has been removed. A gloss coat over that, or well, the matte coat over that will make that look disappeared. We're now going to do some chipping, but we've kind of picked two colours here that are a bit lighter than the two colours we have. So I think that was Dawnstone, right? This grey here is lighter than the grey that we've originally used, so this will look like nice scratches that haven't gone down to the paintwork, but kind of like scratch the paint, maybe scratch the lacquer off a little bit, and we just dab that down. Hopefully you can agree that does add a nice little touch, and we can do the same with our green, which is a little bit lighter, and you can just see those light sort of scuffs on there. Now we're going to come in with some oil brushes by Ammo. This is their ochre, and we're just going to do a nice streaking effect, a really feathered one. We can just paint that down. Now the key here is, which makes it nice and quick, is just no thinners, right? We've got a brush here that's just dry. We clean it on a kitchen paper towel, not with any thinners, and we just keep brushing at it, feathering it in and lightening it up until we get to our desired effect. And then you just clean up so as you can have a point of origin, and you can have a really nice feathered streak there with those oils, and they're pretty quick and easy. Now we're going to come in with some, what is it, some German dark yellow, which is MIG's 1000. Right, this wash, I just dabbed this down, and with a airbrush, what we're going to do is just sort of blow at it so we get some nice natural dirty rain mark streaks. You know, it really does give you a really nice effect that you wouldn't be able to just paint on yourself. We're now going to do the final post shading. Now with this final post shading, it's all about having really thin down paint, right? Like 90% thinners to paint. It's really transparent, as you can see, and we're just going to spray like flaps, ailerons, slats, and as you can see, it's just like a light filter that just kind of brings those out a bit more, even like the odd panel line as well, just to keep things random, but don't overdo that one. You can even do, like, I like to do like little flicks with the airbrush that kind of give you streaks as well, in the direction of flow. Nice little touch. I did do one of these camo patterns, and I felt like it came out too light on this Harrier, so for this one, so I don't get it coming out too light, I'm actually going to use that same black thin down paint and apply a filter all over the model, just spraying it all on, right? All it does is just lightly darkens everything up, and then we can put a nice matte UV varnish on top of that. One of my favorite parts in modeling is to remove the masking tape off the canopy. You can kind of see the end finish line with this. Now we do need to remove the canopy, which was lightly glued. I'm just prying it very lightly, but in lots of locations, so we don't rip it off. Even if you feel like it's going to come off, just keep prying it in lots of locations. We don't want to rip the paint, and it should come off fairly easy. Just a bit of a clean up of any leftover residue of the glue, and then we can come in and clean our canopies, because you might have some bleed through with washes. I did have a bit of overspray going, so a cocktail stick. I'll just nibble it to make it soft and a bit moist, right? And we can just scratch away that overspray, and that is normally good enough, and it still protects the canopy, and we can just wipe away and we can get rid of any nasty overspray. Little paint touch up around the edges, just to you know, so it doesn't look all glossy. Now we're going to just be gluing on those final bits, which you know, with, I think that was RB Production super glue applicator, but most manufacturers do that kind of stuff now. Just applying it to the location pins there, and we can just glue them in place. Now you got super glue, or you could use Tamrex thin cement. Tamiya's thin cement does seem to glue it a lot stronger, but I do find that super glue, you get clean breaks, because these little bits and fiddly pieces do kind of break off, and a clean break with super glue is easily fixed. When applying things like your pylons, you might want to sort of test fit first, because paint can actually sort of thin those holes and you might have to re-drill them, so best to test fit, and then we can glue that down, which if you did want to use Tamiya extra thin cement, I mean, a little bit of super glue first does help, just get it in position, and use use your Tamiya extra thin cement to really lock it down. A bit of matte varnish there, just to get rid of any glossy bits left over by super glue. Then we could come in with some nice details here with our remove before flight tags. I like to use a 0.2 mil lead wire, which is kind of nicely, you can get that in position, you can twist it, and you can make your sort of nice remove before flight tag. We can cut it to whatever size, and we're good to go with that. Again, the super glue's coming out, and and we want to use some super glue activator with this as well, because it's a bit fiddly and you want to get it to stick down pretty quick. So I'll just lay it on where it's going to go and quickly get that sort of dried pretty quickly with that activator, because a lot of fiddling, you're going to be coming on and off of it. And then we can sort of position it, because it's nice lead wire, maybe push it down to have it sort of flowing in gravity sort of thing, looking like that. And as you can see, nicely flow in remove before flight tag there. Now a little bend in one of them, this is where we're kind of going to place it on a fuel tank. So we've got a bit of the curvature there for the fuel tank, we get that glued into place, and then we can use a cocktail stick with some super glue in, and then we can press that down. So we got this sort of free floating and then sort of locked in position kind of remove before flight tags we can do there. And the super glue activator, trust me, it's going to help when putting these little fiddly things down. Just coming up to some of the final touches here, which is just kind of putting on all our navigation lights and everything, which basically brings us to the end of this whole series of building Airfix's 1/48 scale GR1. I hope you've enjoyed it, I hope you've learned a lot, but please do go visit the Genesis Models website, where we have loads more videos, all sorts of videos, step-by-step, rapid video builds, inbox reviews, product reviews, tutorials, all sorts. Please go over there and check us out and support us over there. But as always, until next time, my name's Bob Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I hope you've enjoyed.